जस्ट हिंदी के सारे व्यूअर्स को प्यार भरी नमस्कार, गुड इवनिंग, स्वागत प्रोग्राम स्ट्रेट टॉक में। मैं आपकी होस्ट आश्मिता। यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स में या आप कह सकते पूरी दुनिया में इस वक्त सारे स्टूडेंट्स वापस स्कूल में या जा रहे हैं या जा चुके हैं, लेकिन स्कूल्स रीओपनिंग को लेके खास करके यूएस में बहुत ही अनसर्टेनिटी हम कह सकते हैं डेवलप हुई हुई है। लैक ऑफ गाइडेंस, लैक ऑफ एबिलिटी, लैक ऑफ रिसोर्सेज काफ़ी स्कूल डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स को अक्रॉस द कंट्री काफ़ी इश्यूज क्रिएट कर रही है इन टर्म्स ऑफ जो स्टूडेंट्स ऑलरेडी स्कूल रिटर्न कर रहे हैं उनके लिए भी हम कह सकते हैं कि इट्स रॉकी स्लिपरी रोड। कोई ये गिवन नहीं है कि क्योंकि वो स्कूल वापस गए हैं कि उनका स्कूल जारी रहेगा इन पर्सन लर्निंग के लिए। रिमोट लर्निंग, इन पर्सन लर्निंग एंड हाइब्रिड लर्निंग, जहाँ पे बच्चों को दोनों चीज़ें मिक्स स्कूल डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स ऑफर कर रहे हैं, ये हमें डिफरेंट एरियाज़ में देखने को मिल रही है। बट आज हम आपके साथ एक बहुत ही स्पेशल गेस्ट को लेके आए हैं जो अपनी पोजीशन, अपने एक्सपीरियंस के तौर पे हमें बताएंगे कि एक स्कूल एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव पर्सपेक्टिव से आपको क्या पता होना चाहिए, ना कि सिर्फ अपने बच्चों की सेफ्टी के बारे में, बट एट एन एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव लेवल स्कूल्स क्या कुछ कर रहे हैं ताकि स्टूडेंट्स मैक्सिमम से सबसे ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा वापस आ सके इन पर्सन लर्निंग के लिए, नॉट जस्ट फॉर द सेक ऑफ कंटिन्यूइंग गुड एजुकेशन बट फॉर दी अदर जो आप कह सकते हैं सब्सिक्वेंट कॉन्सिक्वेंसेज होती हैं स्कूलिंग के साथ एसोसिएटेड, सच एज पेरेंट्स जो काफ़ी बार काम पे नहीं जा सकते बिकॉज उनको घर में रह के बच्चों को रिमोट लर्निंग के साथ असिस्टेंस देनी पड़ रही है। सो देयर इज़ अ लॉट ऑफ इश्यूज़ हियर एंड ऑफ कोर्स इट इज़ एन इलेक्शन ईयर, सो इस सारी चीज़ में पॉलिटिक्स भी अब इन्वॉल्व हो चुके हैं। जैसे आपको पहले भी बताया है, यूएस गवर्नमेंट वाशिंगटन डीसी में कांग्रेस अभी भी डिबेट कर रही है फंडिंग को लेके, एक और रिलीफ बिल को लेके, जिसमें एक हिस्सा स्कूल्स के लिए भी डिटरमिन्ड है जो लोकल गवर्नमेंट्स के थ्रू उनको मिल सकता है फॉर द स्पेसिफिक पर्पस ऑफ हैविंग द रिसोर्सेज टू रीओपन सेफली। सो इस इशू के बहुत ज़्यादा पक्ष हैं, बहुत पहलू हैं, हम सारी चीज़ों को डिस्कस करेंगे। बट विदाउट फर्दर अडू I'd like to introduce you to my esteemed guest tonight. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Kusum Sinha, the Superintendent of Garden City School District here in New York. Dr. Sinha, welcome to our program. Namaskar. Dr. Sinha, do we have you?
Thank you.
Good to have you, Dr. Sinha. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time. We understand, especially at your level as the superintendent of schools for Garden City School District, you probably don't have a lot of free time, so we appreciate you coming on the program with us. Dr. Sinha, you know, before we get into this really dense and complicated subject of schools reopening, in which you have a very unique and expert perspective, I want to let our viewers know a little bit about your background because it's quite storied. I mean, a career spanning almost 20 years within school systems all over New York. You have almost every Ivy League, you know, in your education listed. You know, you are uniquely qualified to tell us not just a little bit about how schools are currently dealing with the dilemma of reopening safely versus reopening at all, the challenges you're facing, at least how you see them in Garden City, but really what kind of you know, a role a superintendent really plays. So I want to start a little bit with the specific position that you currently hold. For our viewers that may not know, what exactly does a superintendent of schools you know, do?
Sure. Thank you again, Ashmita. So a superintendent of schools is really in charge of, you know, the every aspect of running a school system. So, for example, in Garden City, we have 7 buildings, and we have students from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade, and we're responsible for educating all of our students and ensuring that we abide by state guidelines, the county guidelines, whatever it may be, but it is our responsibility to provide education until they graduate. And in Garden City, our students, they tend to stay here from kindergarten to 12th grade. So it is an enormous job, and we have you know, close to $120 million budget that we handle in the operational end of the school district. So in educating a child, there's so much more involved. You have the facilities, you have to have the proper education, and and safety and well-being, which is what you started out with, Ashmita, with right now, why we're in this a little bit of a slippery slope in our schools.
Gee. Thank you for kind of walking us through that. It seems like there's a lot of things that make up your role. It's not just any one thing. So, I'm glad we could bring you on so we can kind of get some comments on these various issues. Dr. Sinha, you said that in your particular school district, you have kids that range all across the board from ages, kindergarten through 12th grade. That has to create an additional, challenge for you because, without even COVID involved, that's a lot of different types of students and student needs that kind of fall on your shoulders. How does generally a superintendent that has this type of a makeup in their district manage the different needs of the student body?
So you're absolutely right. We have all students. We're a public school system. So we have students with special needs. We have students who are from different countries that English is a different language for them. So yes, we have those needs, and we have to meet those needs for our students. So we work, we work very diligently. We have different people with different certifications that allow us to serve all of our students. One of the beauty of United States is that that there's education for all kids. So every student has a right for a free, appropriate public education, which is something that is something I really value in the United States, that we're able to do that for kids. So meeting the needs of kids, we have various needs, from students that are not even able to speak with that type of needs to students who who are valedictorians and who students who end up in the Ivy League schools. So we have that whole spectrum, and we have to do the best we can for all of our students.
You mentioned one thing that I want to highlight here, which, our viewers are watching us all over the country. This issue, can't think of, many families or homes that this issue doesn't affect. Even folks who don't have kids in school directly may know people who do, or may be associated with the school system in some way. And COVID has really shown us how our children in our communities really touch the entire community and are affected by what goes on. So you said that, being from New York, especially in your school district, there's a high level of diversity. We're seeing this play out, that diversity, just like age, just like needs, special needs, or the average student, diversity plays a big role in how you execute your role, your specific position. I guess I would love to hear. You're represented school district in New York. You have the luxury, the advantage of seeing this diversity firsthand. How do you think that this makeup adds to your school district? It benefits it in any way, if I could say that?
Sure. One of the things is, Garden City, we're actually, if you look at our younger grade levels, we're probably more diverse there than as you get older, because of our makeup of our community. So there's definitely, you have that economic diversity, and plus you have diversity of just people. What we see with, something like this right now with COVID, what it is that it's there's a lot of focus on equity and access. So what does that mean? So in our community, we're a high-performing school district, and we have the resources. So we're able to do a lot more for our students. Where you compare to our neighboring district, and I'll use Hempstead for example, their needs are quite significant, and the ability to meet those needs are probably a lot more challenging than the needs that I have here in Garden City. So, I think, with this crisis or the pandemic, it has really showed us that, how do we meet the needs of all of our kids, and not just in Garden City, but throughout the, I have to tell you, not just even throughout United States, but throughout the world, because I think it is, children, I'm a strong advocate of kids, or I wouldn't be doing this job. And to be able to meet those needs is extremely important. So I think the diversity piece, although, like I said, in our district, we don't have that level of even economic diversity because people are well off in our communities here. Where I see this as what we were talking about earlier before we got on the air was that when you take a look at New York City and the challenges that they're posed with, it is significant in terms of kids that don't have access to technology, don't have access to books, and not even meals. In schools, we also serve as a place for feeding our children. And when schools are closed and those things happen, it's a challenge. So it's about how do we meet those needs for kids, and we do it.
You really set up the rest of the show perfectly for me. I'm going to touch on all of these subjects. We're going to have to stop here for a quick break. Dr. Sinha, stay with us. Viewers, आप भी बिल्कुल हमारे साथ ऐसे ही जुड़े रहो. मिलते हैं ब्रेक के उस पार. ब्रेक के बाद आपका स्वागत है. आप देख रहे हैं प्रोग्राम स्ट्रेट टॉक. एंड बात हो रही है कि यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स में जिस तरह स्कूल्स रीओपन हो रहे हैं, क्या कुछ चैलेंजेस एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर्स को फेस करने पड़े, क्या जानकारी आपको पता होनी चाहिए. अगर आपके बच्चे ऑलरेडी स्कूल इन पर्सन जा रहे हैं या हाइब्रिड लर्निंग ले रहे हैं या कम्प्लीटली रिमोट हैं, देयर इज़ अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स दैट नीड टू बी एड्रेस्ड हियर. एंड रिसेंटली कुछ नई गाइडलाइंस, उनके ऊपर भी कॉमेंट लेंगे. हम एक बार फिर ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं हमारे गेस्ट डॉक्टर कुसुम सिन्हा, सुपरिटेंडेंट ऑफ द गार्डन सिटी School District in New York. Dr. Sinha, आपका प्रोग्राम में एक बार फिर स्वागत. Welcome back. Dr. Sinha, you gave us a great introduction on what your role as a superintendent entails. So now I'm going to get right into the good stuff here, talking about the issue at hand. When it comes to COVID, when it comes to reopening, we are well into September. A lot of school districts across the country have already implemented reopening. Before we get to some of the ones that are facing issues like New York City and some of the recent headlines we've seen about this, I want to talk a little bit about what you've done in Garden City, because this is a real success story, and I want to hear what exactly it is that was implemented that led to some of these positive results thus far. So Garden City School District has been reopened for a few weeks now. Tell us about how that is going.
Sure. Actually, we had a fantastic opening of our schools, and we have close to 4,000 students in our district. So it's been amazing, and it's been really a lot of hard work from everyone, from our staff, faculty, administrators, and our community. There was a big push and a goal for us to bring our kids back in. So I'll be talking to you a little bit about how we've done that. So first and foremost, I established a task force that consisted of we had over 60 people on the task force, and the focus was on safety first and foremost. We wanted to make sure that when we opened our doors, our students, our faculty, staff, everybody would be safe. So that was first and foremost. And then it was, how do we implement the Department of Health guidelines? So in our schools, what I've done is made sure we purchased all the cleaning, disinfectant. So every night we disinfect our entire school district. So every classroom, every large spaces, they get disinfected. So we do that. What we've also done is we've invested a significant amount of resources on technology. Our 6th through 12th grade students, we've provided them with a device. So they would have that at home for their learning, because they're in a hybrid program. So one day they're here in school, the next day they're at home learning, because we could only fit in half of our students. So because of our classroom sizes, I wasn't able to bring everybody back. We've used all of our large spaces, the cafeteria, the gymnasium. So our kindergarten through 5th grade, everybody's in. So our planning for that was 6 feet of social distancing. Can we do that? We did measurements. We actually looked at our building capacity surveys and really made sure that we have 6 feet of social distancing. We removed everything from our classrooms, so there's only really desks. But with that said, we have also made sure that it's a welcoming environment for our children. The other thing we've also done, what we did was we did a lot of surveys. understanding what is it that our community is looking for, what are things that our teachers may be thinking about, invested in a lot of professional development or professional learning for our teachers. So there was quite a bit of learning that took place in the last, I would say, 4 or 5 months for our teachers, and it continues because you're teaching differently. You are teaching in an environment where you're wearing masks. So within the school environment, everybody's wearing a mask. We have mask breaks. We have purchased tents for outdoors. So when kids are going outside in inclement weather, they're under the tents. We're using outdoor space for teaching and learning. So students, if they're doing a read aloud, teachers are taking them outside for those read alouds. So we have made those types of modifications. We have purchased technology quite a bit, not just for students, but also for teachers. We have equipped them with, laptops, state-of-the-art laptops, so they can teach in that manner, use those tools rather than a Chromebook. So there's been a lot of investment, and the task force, our focus was operational, which is all the pieces that I just spoke of. The other one was teaching and learning. We also had school culture to really focus on the mental health needs of our students because they were out. What does that mean when they come back? And we talk a lot about trauma-informed practices. We focused quite a bit on that. And then the other group was really around staffing. We're using our staff in somewhat of a different way to bring all of our students in. So our K-5 students, they're in every single day, 6, 12, every other day in our school.
Dr. Sinha, that is a lot of great information, and without getting ahead of myself, it seems this is the best case scenario, that if every school district essentially was had the resources or was provided the resources, they could implement a similar plan to Garden City and ideally get similar results that you're seeing right now, positive results so far. And this is despite the fact, like you were telling me earlier, Long Island, where you are, where Garden City is one school district, is made up of all these different towns that border each other, and some of these towns that are really, in proximity to Garden City are actually not seeing the results you are, but Garden City is. And one of the main drivers of this is absolutely the resources that you're able to use to implement these measures. I want to talk to you a little bit about these surveys, because one of the things that we are seeing a lot in terms of concern is coming from the parents, right? So you've conducted these community surveys. I'd be interested to know what kind of responses, what were the main themes that you were seeing from parents in regards to school reopening?
So one of the main focus point for parents, and including our staff, very much so on safety. So when we come back, what are those safety protocols? We have a very strong safety protocol. We have a screener that everybody completes before they can come onto our campus. So which means, the signs for COVID and a temperature check. So that's done at home, and they have to. It's through an app and a web-based form. So we get a report who has, on the screening has shown that there is something with them. Then a call from our school goes to the home. If the child is home, which is great. If they come to school, we even have isolation rooms in all of our buildings. So there's a very strong focus on safety. We have put in safety protocols for our students. So when they're going into the classroom, they're washing their hands or sanitizing their hands. When they're leaving the classroom, they're washing their hands or sanitizing their hands. So safety was such a big focal point. We ensured that we followed all of the Department of Health and CDC guidelines pertaining to safety. So that was big, and that actually has eased some of the anxiety for parents to allow for their kids to come back to school.
Dr. Sinha, you seem particularly adept at knowing what I'm going to ask you next, and you touched on these CDC guidelines. I absolutely want to get to that because there's some new guidelines that have recently come out from the CDC in regards to schools reopening, even though schools have mostly reopened already, so they're about a month behind where they need to be. But we're going to stop for a quick break here. Please stay with us. I'd love to talk to you more about this. Viewers, आप भी बिल्कुल ऐसे ही हमारे साथ बने रहिए. यहाँ पे एक छोटी सी ब्रेक के लिए रुकते हैं. ब्रेक के बाद कन्वर्सेशन बिल्कुल ऐसे ही जारी रहेगी. वेलकम बैक फ्रॉम द ब्रेक। आप देख रहे हैं स्ट्रेट टॉक एंड मसला आज यही डिस्कस हो रहा है स्कूल्स को लेके क्या कुछ आपको पता होना चाहिए। फ्रॉम ए सुपरिटेंडेंट ऑफ स्कूल्स जॉइनिंग अस फ्रॉम गार्डन सिटी न्यू यॉर्क, डॉक्टर कुसुम सिन्हा. Dr. Sinha, welcome back to the program. It's been really informative discussing some of these subjects with you. I'm really glad that we started off kind of laying out a best case scenario for our viewers, what has been implemented in Garden City and the motivations, the justifications that you have used to implement this, the guidelines, the standards that were followed. Speaking of guidelines, the CDC has finally released their official guidelines for schools across the country when it comes to reopening. And I should note that this comes about a month after schools, for the most part, particularly in the South, which is seeing quite a devastating wave of COVID over the last few weeks, couple of months, is playing out. So, right off the bat, and I understand that you're in a position where you may or may not be able to answer me fully, but I'd love to get a comment from you. How beneficial or how helpful is it for you as a school, a district superintendent, to receive these guidelines from the CDC now after even your own school district, Garden City, has already been reopened for a few weeks?
So that's a great question because these guidelines would have been obviously much more helpful had they been out earlier. What we did was we did the best we could with the guidelines that we had at that time. And we focused a lot on the Department of Health guidelines and looking at our local, really looking at, and every county, state should be looking at their local numbers of cases in terms of looking at reopening. And that's exactly what we did. So believe it or not, those guidelines I have not even fully reviewed. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see if I have to make how much changes or whatnot based on the CDC, because our reopening plan, all of the school districts, it's on our website. So, we'll have to assess that and see if we need to make any changes. One of the things that we did in Garden City is our plan is the fluid plan. So any changes we make with the school opening, things that we've already made some minor changes to it, to our plan, we'll continue to do that. But I always say to everybody, it is all around safety, because that's the basic needs. You must keep everyone safe before you can educate and before you can really fully be in operation. So I have a problem-solving team that I've established here. So since we've opened, we meet every single day, and there is about 15 of us in that group. And all we do is we look at what went well today, what could we do better, any questions, and we are just being very proactive in addressing any issues that come up, whether it's within a building, transportation, within the community. So we've been really ahead of that. So hopefully we'll continue to do that.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'd be interested to see how this plays out from your end. Dr. Sinha, you are in Garden City, New York, which is in the suburbs of New York City, but you are close enough, and of course New York City is in the headlines constantly when it comes to schools reopening, because it is the largest public school system in the country. Millions of kids are a part of the New York City school system. Another unfortunate number is almost 100,000 are homeless or do not have a permanent residence. So these are children that are, you could say high risk in the sense that they need school to reopen, but they also are at high risk from a health perspective in that they need school to reopen safely. Just because of your expertise in this field, as someone once again who's been in this industry, in this line of work for almost 20 years, working within school systems all across New York State, what are, in your opinion, some of the biggest challenges that New York City is facing? I mean, they just delayed the reopening again recently, Mayor Bill de Blasio did. What do you think some of the issues that administrators and public officials are currently facing when it comes to New York City schools reopening?
I think, there is so much related to just space and how can they bring students back? And even if they bring half their students back, what about the other half? And like you just said before, with there's so many students that are homeless or don't have. It boils down to equity and access to education. For the children that are in the poverty, homeless, or even dealing with, extreme challenges of abuse within the system, how do you help these kids, access education? And when they're not in school, it's about you're teaching through technology. Even though you can give them a device, do they have connectivity? Do they have connectivity to be able to log on?
Yeah.
Are the parents home? If the child is coming in every other day, can the parent afford childcare? Schools, and we have not, I think we see it today more than ever before. Schools are a major, major infrastructure in every single community, whether you're wealthy or you're not, it doesn't matter. And that infrastructure, we haven't looked at schools in that light. We've looked at it as it's a school. I mean, when you think about, and it actually gets me quite upset when I think about that we paid such close attention to other places opening up, like, nail salons and
Yeah.
and some of the bars and
Yeah.
whatnot. And we didn't give that type of attention to schools when schools serve so much more than just education. We also provide childcare for parents so they can work.
Yeah.
So when you have a family who's already in poverty and their child can only go to school every other day, what is that parent to do with the child? So systemically, it is a huge, huge problem. And it really is very, very heartbreaking when you think of it in that way. There were students when we went into fully remote, and if you went into the city, they didn't have anything. They were using their parents, the cell phone, and you can't learn from a cell phone. It is not, it's not the same as a computer. So these are major, major challenges, and I think we've seen it. Even your best schools had significant challenges when we went fully remote, when we had to shut down. I could only imagine what New York City went through, and districts that are very are needy. It's heartbreaking. And now we're also told that we're going to have cuts in our state aid. So district like ours, we're looking at probably between a 1.2 to 1.4 million dollar cuts. It's nothing compared to what my neighboring district, who has significant needs, and for them it's millions, millions, and millions of dollars. And it is very difficult to sustain, the work we need to do when that happens. So access and equity, I would say, are the big factors for New York City.
Absolutely. I think that's a really articulate way to put it. Dr. Sinha, you mentioned a little bit about younger students and special needs. I want to focus on these two areas, right? Because even with remote learning, and this is, I think a challenge that I'm sure not just school administrators, education providers are struggling with, but parents are especially facing kind of the brunt of this. What do you do if conditions are not safe to bring kids back into a school, into a building, into a facility, but they are special needs and sitting at home, they are essentially falling behind. This is, there's some news, articles that call this a lost year for students in terms of education. Special needs, a parent, as caring or informed or aware of their child's needs as they may be, does not have the same training that an educator does. Maybe this question doesn't have an answer right now, but what do you anticipate folks will do if, with the changing season, the weather changing, if there is another wave of this virus, what do you anticipate will happen for those really, really high-risk student body populations, like a special needs student?
That's, that's something that is very challenging, without a doubt. We're ready to pivot if we have to fully remote, we'll do it. However, with that said, when you have a child who has such significant special needs, and in our district, children with significant autism, that they're nonverbal, they can't speak. Now the parent is left at home, and anything we can do is going to be through technology, through remote, right, virtually. Very, very difficult, because students, they need an adult with them, even just to prompt them, to coach them, to be with them. You don't have that. They need lots of therapies, which you're not able to do. You have to do it remotely. The impact is pretty significant, particularly on our special needs kids and even our youngest students. So when you think about kindergarten, first, second, and even up to, I would say, fourth, fifth grade, they're learning to learn, right? They're learn how to read, how to do mathematics, how to socialize, how all of those learnings, it cannot happen just through remotely. You need an adult. So that's one of the focus areas that the state had really talked about, is to bring your youngest learners and your special needs kids.
Right.
For us in our district, our special needs kids, they come every single day to school, even at the secondary level, and our youngest learners are in school. But when we go fully remote, we're ready to do it, but it's definitely not the same as if they were
I
in
can
school.
imagine. Dr. Sinha, you mentioned another thing that I want to ask you a little bit more about. Once again, we have to stop for a quick break here. Please don't go anywhere. Viewers, आप भी बिल्कुल ऐसे ही जुड़े रहें. मिलते हैं ब्रेक के उस पार. ब्रेक के बाद आपका एक बार फिर स्वागत प्रोग्राम स्ट्रेट टॉक में. मैं आपकी होस्ट आश्मिता. आज हम डिस्कस करें यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स में जो कोविड को लेके एक सबसे बड़ी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट जो कंट्री में क्रिएट हो रही है, लोगों को डिवाइड कर रही है, इट्स द स्कूल सिस्टम. स्कूल्स को कैसे सेफली रीओपन किया जा सकता है. हमारे बच्चे, हमारे फैमिली, हमारे बुज़ुर्ग, हमारे एजुकेशन प्रोवाइडर्स, पोटेंशियल वर्क फोर्स, सारे ही इस चीज़ के साथ इम्पैक्ट हो रहे हैं. पूरी कम्युनिटीज़ एक स्कूल डिस्ट्रिक्ट, एक स्कूल की बिल्डिंग, एक स्कूल के फंक्शन के साथ जुड़ी हुई हैं. सो इसी विषय पे हम और डिस्कशन कर रहे हैं. ऑफ कोर्स हमारे साथ एक बार फिर जुड़ रहे हैं हमारे एस्टीम्ड गेस्ट डॉक्टर कुसुम सिन्हा, सुपरिंटेंडेंट ऑफ द गार्डन सिटी स्कूल डिस्ट्रिक्ट here in New York. Dr. Sinha, one more time, welcome back to the program. I'm so glad we're talking about this because you're really able to shed kind of a background light that, you know, an average person may not know in terms of administratively, what are some of the challenges, what are some of the actions, and Garden City in particular, your school district, has a best case scenario that you can lay out for folks, but of course it's an issue of resources, it's an issue of being able to implement some of these best practices that you are following. Dr. Sinha, we talked a lot about some of the guidelines driving your approach and the challenges, not just in a school district like yours, but some of these higher risk areas where they maybe have less resources or less access and higher needs, right? You mentioned something about remote learning, and you know, with COVID, of course, every day it's you know, a changing reality, both from the science perspective and then the policy that follows. So you know, looking too far ahead seems like an exercise in futility at this point, but in any case, I'm sure that's part of your job, so I'm going to have to ask you some questions about how you see the rest of the school year, or at least the next few months, playing out, right? When it comes to particularly the South Asian community, I would say demographically speaking, this community enjoys the luxury of having a mixed household. Maybe there's folks at home that can look after the children, so the breadwinners can still go to work, you know, and we also as a community put a high priority on education, especially in a school district like yours, where you know folks move there to have access to a better school system, pay thousands of dollars in school taxes every year to make sure that system is good for their kids' future. Say that you have to go fully remote, you know, if there's an occurrence in the way the virus is shaping out in the fall and the winter. Can you speak to us a little bit about the quality of a fully remote education, especially for some of the older kids, you know, kids that are not able to do things like chemistry labs, right? Kids that are maybe preparing for, you know, AP exams in the spring, kids that are in their junior year looking to apply for college in the coming year. So all of these challenges for kids towards the end of your age group, you know, in a fully remote setting, parents who are wondering what quality of education will our kids really get? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. I think, you know, when we closed in March and we were completely closed, I think it was very challenging because it was like a light switch went off and all of a sudden you had to teach in a very different format. Because we've had, since March to now, there's still, you know, there'll be challenges, but we're better equipped to teach remotely. So for our older students, I think we're going to be, I have more faith in that because the kids are more independent, they can learn, and we have the curriculum, and we have the technology to be able to give that, the learning. And as far as like science, the labs and whatnot, you're right, they won't get that same experience because they're not in our facility. There's only so many videos you can show, there's so many virtual things you can do. But, so it'll be a different experience for kids. But I do believe that the quality in terms of those courses, I think students will get a much better experience that they did in the spring, believe it or not. I do think so. I think
and listen, I mean, in these times, any improvement makes a difference, and is something that I think we can all be happy about. Dr. Sinha, just kind of, a personal question here. Since Garden City has been open for a few weeks now, you have positive news to share with us as superintendent of the school district, which is really great to hear. It's always good to get some good news for a change in these times. I'm just wondering, the younger student body population, these young kids that are in person in the facility right now, how are they kind of navigating wearing masks and social distancing and washing their hands? I mean, when you think of young kids, like a first grader, you just see them like sneeze and take their snot and like rub it all over the wall, right? So how are the young kids kind of handling some of the protocols that you've now implemented?
So I have to tell you, our students, our younger students have been pretty good. They wear their masks. They know that they're supposed to maintain a distance because of where their desks are. Mm-hmm. Teachers have done a great job of teaching them the protocols. So as I visit the buildings, I go to buildings almost very regularly. You see kids outside more. You see kids practicing what they should be. What I worry more about is once the weather gets colder, you also have to have the proper ventilation in your classrooms. So windows are going to be open. Children are not going to be able to go out as much as they have been because the weather has been nicer. So I worry a little bit, what happens then, and then you have increased cases of COVID. So even today, I actually spoke to Department of Health today because we had a case. So those things may be more frequent. So I sort of worry about those things much more so with the inclement weather and with the weather getting colder for us to maintain what we are doing now.
Absolutely. I think the weather is something that everyone across the country is keeping an eye on, particularly here in the Northeast and the New York region, which suffered so greatly at the onset of this virus. Dr. Sinha, I'd love to keep talking to you about this stuff. It's so interesting to get your perspective on these matters. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. I once again appreciate the work that you're doing and the fact that Garden City, like you've shared with us, has a positive kind of a reopening story to share at this time, so we're happy to hear that. Dr. Sinha, in closing, would you like to share any last messages with our viewers tonight?
Yeah, what I would just say, especially to parents that are there, just stay connected with your students, with your child rather, and your teachers. And because I think children, when they're learning in this capacity, they need all adults around them. And I think that's really critical. And one of the other things I just want to say, mental health is really important. So really keeping an eye on your children and their mood and how they're feeling, because they're probably more isolated than ever before. And that I think has had a significant impact on children that we don't talk enough about, but I think is extremely important. So stay connected and know what your children are doing online, and the school's there to help. Every school district is doing the best they can.
Wonderful. Once again, Dr. Kusum Sinha, Superintendent, Garden City School District here in New York, joining us this evening. Thank you so much for your time, for your work. We wish you the best of luck in the coming months as this pandemic and the school year pans out. And we'd love to have you back again to tell us more wonderful things, hopefully, from your school district. You take care now. Have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you, Ashmita. Thank you so much.
Of course. And मैं बाकी व्यूअर्स को बताना चाहती हूँ इस एपिसोड को लेके या इस टॉपिक को लेके, खास करके जहाँ पे यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स में स्कूल्स रीओपनिंग की बात आती है, अगर आपके पास हमारे लिए कोई क्वेश्चंस, कमेंट्स, कंसर्न्स हैं, आप ज़रूर हमें लिख सकते हैं. info@justbroadcasting.com, ashmita@justbroadcasting.com. यहाँ पे आप मुझे दी इजाज़त. नमस्कार.